Thank you. Good evening, students. How are you all doing? After a quite a break, we were we were discussing a lot of things, and hopefully you have continued the other topics, and you are all doing good. Yes, thank you, Sushil. I am doing good. How are you doing? Seeing lot of new names. So looks like a lot of students have joined in now after the thing. So good. People who have missed out the initial basic sessions, don't forget to reach out and see the recordings, because that is very important for you to understand the concept. Because if you start from now, there'll be many concepts which are interconnected and interlinked. Okay, so please go through the recording of the videos so that you are understanding things back. Great. Thank you. Thank you so many. Welcome back. It's like returns. Nice. So let me get a feedback of kind of what have you studied and what are you up to in terms of what I had taken the sessions and what about the faculty which has taken after me. So what is your understanding? What are the concepts which you are clear now in GST? What all you have understood in GST till now? Okay, ITC. Is the complete concept of ITC clear to you now on the part of claiming ITC section 16, then the restrictions in section 17, then in case of specials, provisions of section 18, is that complete provisions of section and the resultant amendments and the rules clear to you? Wow, Sweetie Kumari, you're aware of RCM exemptions, ITC, place and value and time of supply. That's good. Very much clear. That's nice. Aisha, okay, my explanation was the best. Thank you so much. So we'll continue that, the best part even now. So if you are clear with the background, then we could go with the procedural aspects now. Okay. Wow, ITC chapter is good. That's good. So because ITC is, as we had discussed, that's the backbone of GST, because you take registration, you file your returns, all of that, because you can claim the ITC, right? So if you're clear with the ITC, that's good. Awesome. So we can proceed with the procedural chapters now. Okay. Okay. Time and value of supply of notes is not posted. I will request sir to post it. I have sent the mail. Let me resend the mail to him, and I will tell sir to post it again. Wait. Need revision of ITC? No, ITC, you had sufficient classes. You had like 3 to 4 classes. And everybody is clear, Mr. Rehan. You will have to re-look at the videos, I will say, because revision of ITC itself, just the revision part will take half of the day for me. So if you have any queries on ITC, we will have again problem solving session. That time you can ask. But if for your clarity, I would request you to please re-look at the videos, because comprehensively sir has taken it. So please re-look at the video, you will understand it. And it's all very easy to understand, nothing much technical or complicated. So you can understand by yourself. Great. So we'll now proceed with registration. Okay. So we understood when a GST is payable on a supply transaction. So once I make a supply, then we had discussed that immediately when I make supply, I don't pay GST. I will accumulate all the transactions for a month and pay the GST, right? Because on every transaction, I cannot make the payment. So I will accommodate all for one period. Say if I'm a monthly filer, then accommodate for the monthly, whatever sales and whatever supplies I've made. Supply is a correct word instead of sales, because sales is one part of the supply. There are other seven limbs also in the supply, correct? So whenever any of these seven limbs are fulfilled, then supply takes place. So if I make a supply transaction, I will accumulate all the supplies for a month and pay it in the returns, right? Now, let's see the journey of a businessman that he is registered under the Companies Act. He's got an incorporation. Now he is starting his business. Now, if he's starting his business, will he make sales from the day one? He will not make sales from the day one because he will have to set up things, right? He will have to set up a factory. He will have to take consultants from a lawyer, take consultancy from chartered accountants on his business plan, and lot of exercise has to be done. That's when, after complete setup is done, he will start his registration and he will have his sales. Now, on the date of sales, he realizes that he is not registered under GST. So, what are the implications? So, two questions. On the date of sale, he is not registered. What is the implication? And if, say, on the date of registration, on the date of sale, now let's talk this with numbers and dates. Now, 1st of January, he incorporated his company. Now, he was doing all the initial setup work, and from the 1st of February, he started making sales. Now, my question to you all is, what happens on the 1st of February if he is not registered? Can he still make sales? Can he still do the sales without GST registration? If he does so, what is the implication? Secondly, what happens to the interim period from 1st January till 31st January? He was not registered. So is there any consequence in that case? Okay, everybody is saying yes, he can. Yeah, no stoppage of sales. Everybody is very confident that yes, business has to happen. GST is a matter of compliance. So his sales cannot stop. Okay, that's right, broad answer. But yes, Ankur has given a right thing that he will not be able to claim ITC. A lot of other people are also following up. They're saying he can make sales, but he cannot claim ITC. Correct. So you have understood the ITC concept so well that input tax credit is available only to a person who is registered, right? So that's why registration is very critical, because if you are not registered, you can still make sales. Okay, you can still do your supply transaction, but you cannot claim your ITC. Right? That's why input tax, the registration is very important. So that's answering my question number one. What about the answer to my question number two? What had happened during the interim period from the day he was incorporated till the day he made sales, and say he is registered under GST after he made sales on the 1st of February? Very true, Nagraju, very true, Keshav, that he will have to apply for registration within a time-bound manner. Can't be that I make sale today and I will register after 2 months. If I cross the threshold limit, then I will have to register within 30 days. So the law says that if you are crossing the threshold limit, that is the limit up to which you can make sales without any GST, then once you cross this threshold, once you touch the threshold, you will have to register within 30 days from touching the threshold. Correct. Now, what happens for the interim period? Now, my facts are clear to you. Registration of the company on 1st January and first sale made on 1st February. So what happens for this interim period of 30 days? Good. Mayur and Manohar have given the right answer that he can take ITC for this interim period also. How? He can take on those goods which are lying in stock on the 1st of February. Okay. There is a provision called Section 18, which says that any stock which is available on the 31st January or the opening balance on 1st of February when he took the registration. Okay. Since his threshold is crossed on 1st February, he can take the registration and the stock lying in his goods, stock lying in his hands, the goods lying in his hands on 1st of February, he can claim the credit of that. But can he claim credit of the lawyer services? Can he claim credit of the chartered accountant services, which was there from 1st January to 31st January? Can all ITC be claimed? He can take ITC on inputs on stocks available on 1st February. On 1st February, he can collect GST. Correct. Subject to the condition that he applies for registration on the 1st of February. So very nice. So he can claim ITC only on the goods or inputs of semi-finished goods or finished goods immediately preceding the date of registration, but not on services. So he will lose out the credit on those expenses or on those services for which, during which, when he's claimed that, when he's availed those services and he was not registered. That's why registration is mandatory. If not only from the sales perspective, it is mandatory from the perspective of input tax credit. So that's when the importance of registration comes in, right? So now we understood practically what is the importance of registration. Now let's get into the chapter of registration. Registration, why registration? It is a fundamental requirement for identifying of a taxpayer. So we have been selfish till now. We have said that we need to claim ITC, so we will take registration. From but a government's perspective, why should the government give you registration? The government has to give you registration because it is a fundamental requirement for identifying taxpayers, because the responsibility of collecting of tax is of the government. The government is given that baton to you as a taxpayer, saying that you are a taxpayer. Now you are collecting taxes on my behalf, because whatever taxes you collect, that you will deposit to the government's exchequer, right? So when you deposit to the government's exchequer, it means that you are an agent of the government indirectly. So once you will collect all the taxes, and if you run away, how will I catch you? So I have to identify you. That's why you will need a registration. तो एक बार registration हो गया, तब उस बंदे की पहचान हो जाएगी, चाहे कंपनी हो, इंडिविजुअल हो, प्रोप्राइटरशिप हो, पार्टनरशिप हो. जिस जगह पे आप रजिस्टर कर रहे हो, आपकी जगह पे मैं वेरिफिकेशन कर सकता हूँ, आपका सेल्स में चेक कर सकता हूँ, आपका स्टॉक चेक कर सकता हूँ. कब होगा ये सब? जब मुझे आपका एड्रेस पता होगा तब. दैट्स वाई रजिस्ट्रेशन में इतने डिटेल्स मांगे जाते हैं. बिकॉज why all of these details are required? Because I need to know who is the taxpayer, where you are located, because if something wrong happens, I can come and identify you, right? That's why registration is crucial from the tax department's perspective. It is a requirement for identifying of the taxpayers. And from a whole ecosystem, it is a first step towards being GST compliant. There are a lot of GST compliances. The first thing to be compliant is registration. Why registration under GST? From a taxpayer's perspective, to really legally recognize a person as supplier, because otherwise he is just a supplier but not legally recognized under GST. Once he's legally recognized as a supplier, then he is authorized to collect tax. Which means what? A person who does sales of ₹1 crore, he's crossed the threshold. He's crossed the threshold of 20 lakhs and 40 lakhs. If he makes a sale of 1 crore without registration, he does not have a right to collect taxes from the receiver. So that doesn't mean that he will not pay taxes to the government. The liability on him to pay taxes to the government still continues. But he will not be able to collect taxes from the customers. He will have to pay it from his own pocket. So once he registers, only then he gets the authorization to collect taxes on his sales. Otherwise, his sales is his sales and he cannot collect taxes from his customers. So once he registers, he has a right to collect taxes from his customers. And of course, the third part, which everybody has said, is he gets a right to claim any credit of taxes. Okay. Does it mean the person who is not registered is not liable to pay? No, he is liable to pay, but he cannot collect it from his customers. Because the charging section 9 says that there shall be levied a tax called GST. It doesn't say that it shall be paid by the tax receiver. It shall be paid by the taxable person. Okay, section 9. That's why it's clear that there shall be levied a tax called CGST and it shall be paid by the taxable person. Now take the example, a consultant with turnover of rupees 50 lakhs is not registered. Now what will he do? A consultant who crosses turnover and is not registered, will he not be liable to pay GST? He will be liable to pay. So, but the first point is registration ensures seamless flow of credit from the supplier to recipient at national level, and registration is plan based. So in this question, the answer is not mentioned here because it's for discussion, that a consultant whose turnover is cross 50 lakhs, he is not registered, he will be liable to payment of taxes to the government, but he does not have an entitlement to collect from his customers. Okay. Now, other aspect of registration is registration ensures seamless flow of credit from the supplier to the recipient at the national level, right? Why national level? Because if I am sitting in Karnataka, okay, I am making a supply from here to another state. Still, I can pay taxes on the sale from one state to another state, irrespective of me not having registration in that other state. Because registration is from the place of supply. I am registered in Karnataka. From here, I can pay taxes for my interstate sales. I will pay IGST to the government. So registration ensures seamless flow of credit. Once I collect taxes from him, I can pass on the input tax credit through him. Through my invoice, a person who's sitting in another state, he can claim the input tax credit, right? And registration, another aspect to be importantly noted is registration is PAN based. Okay, it is basis the PAN. So for one PAN, you can have multiple registrations. No restriction that you should have only one registration. You can have multiple registrations, but it is PAN based. It means the basic document for your registration should be PAN. Without PAN, you cannot apply for registration. Another aspect is one registration is sufficient for all of these taxes, including CGST, SGST, IGST. For a union territory, they will get one registration for the union territory tax and CGST tax. IGST also is covered under that. And if the person is liable to pay cess with the same number, he can pay cess also. Okay. So that is the basics of GST registration. Now, what are the conditions for registration? Basically, what are all the things which we need to look into for registration? There is no centralized registration. Okay. What do I mean? But I just now I said that I can sit in Karnataka and do sales in Maharashtra. Isn't it a centralized registration then? No, that is not the concept of centralized registration. Centralized registration was there in service tax, which said that if you are having multiple places of business in multiple states, you take one registration certificate, you take one registration, that registration number holds good for every other state. That was called as centralized registration. But in GST, we do not have the concept of centralized registration. If you are doing supplies from state A and you are also doing a supply from state B, then state A is different, state B is different. Take separate registration in state A and separate registration in state B. Okay? And if you're doing some transaction in union territory, take separate registration in that union territory. One registration will not fit all. Each state can monitor the registrations only under its state. So if you are registered in Maharashtra, take registration in Maharashtra. Maharashtra state government department will not interfere with your sales in Tamil Nadu. In Tamil Nadu, you have another place from where you're supplying. Take another registration in Tamil Nadu. Okay. That's why register in every state where you make a taxable supply. Okay. So wherever you're making a taxable supply, from there you have to register. What is cess in GST? There are some special products, right? So apna thumbs up or coke pite ho aap. In the thumbs up and coke, apart from GST, there is a special levy which is called as cess. Okay, apart from GST, this cess is levied on aerated products, on tobacco products, on luxury cars. On all these products, extra taxes is collected apart from normal GST. This is called as cess. This is not the same cess what we pay in the income tax. That is a separate cess, and the cess in GST is different. Okay. So registration in every state from where he makes a taxable supply. Now from one state, if I'm making taxable supply, another state, if I'm not making taxable supply. Okay. Then in that state where I'm doing exempted supply, I don't have to register. Let's understand this with the illustration. Yeah. So a person is having a taxable turnover in Karnataka of 10 lakhs and he's having an exempt turnover in Maharashtra to the tune of 30 lakhs. Total aggregate turnover is 40 lakhs. Okay. Say we will get into the threshold limit. For now, understand that if the threshold limit by the government is fixed at 40 lakhs. Now, should he register in both the states? Because we said registration criteria should be from the perspective of turnover, which is the total PAN-based turnover. Now, this person has one PAN and he has two branches, one in Karnataka and one in Maharashtra, which means that the total turnover is 40 lakhs, right? Now, he is touching 40 lakhs. So, should he register in Karnataka and Maharashtra both? Only in Karnataka is to take registration. That's the response from Nagaraju. Yes, yes, yes means what? He has to take registration both the states. Mandatory registration in Karnataka. Yes, register in both the states. No, no. Very much confused crowd. Only one place you are seeing in both the states. You said it is centralized. No, I said it is not centralized. See my first point. No centralized registration. I said centralized was there in service tax. We are not under service tax now. We are under GST tax. So read the first line. It is saying no centralized registration. One state doesn't interfere in the aspects of other. Hence, he can take registration only in Karnataka. Okay. So the criteria is, okay. Most of you are saying that take registration in Karnataka. That's true because the limit is 40 lakhs. He's touching 40 lakhs, so he has to take registration. But the point what I'm driving home is register in every state where he makes a taxable supply. You have to take registration only where he's making a taxable supply. Since he's making a taxable supply here, he will take registration in a state where it is registered, which is Karnataka. So here Karnataka registration is required. In Maharashtra, even though he's crossing the threshold limit, he's not making taxable supply, so registration is not required, which would imply that no registration is required in a state if he's not making any taxable supply. Now, what happens if he has branches within the state? Okay, does he have to take registration there or no? If there are multiple branches in a state, should I take registration inside a state? If there are multiple branches in a state, but single registration is sufficient. If you have multiple registrations, it is okay to take multiple branches. You can take one registration in a state. You don't have to compulsory register each and every branch within the state I'm talking. Okay, this is not for interstate. If you have branches within two states, then you will have to take registration in each of those states where you make a taxable supply. But within a state, if you have multiple locations, multiple branches, one registration is sufficient. In that registration, you can mention PPOB and APOB. What is PPOB? Principal place of business, and APOB is additional place of business. Okay. Can anybody take more than one registration with single PAN? Yes, if you have multiple locations, because PAN is based on one nation, right? So for if you are a company, if you have multiple branches, for income tax purpose, for company law purpose, you are one person. Only for GST, you have separate branches. So you will not get extra PAN for a new branch, right? So you will have the same PAN itself. But for GST, with the same PAN, you can get multiple registrations in different states. But if a person is having multiple place of business in a state, and he may be granted separate registration for each place of business in the state or union territory. Okay, if a person is having multiple places of business in a state, then he may be granted separate registration saying that, sir, I am having two branches in a state. Now I need two separate registration. Please grant me separate registration. One may be into separate business, another may be into separate business. So for each business, I want to maintain separate records. So please grant me two registrations. They can grant you. So it is a optional thing, not a compulsory thing. So if you have two branches in a state, you can have two registrations. Okay. Now, when is that possible? That is possible. Please take care of the wordings. It says, if a person is having multiple places of business in a state, he may be granted separate registration for each place of business, in a state or union territory. So let's take this. example of situation one, wherein business one is in IT sector, one PAN number. Now you have two businesses. One is into the business of IT software services, and business two is on employee training services. The location is one the same office. Now another situation is business one is hotel and business two is also hotel. Same business, but separate locations. Now, when do you think separate registration will be given? Will it be given in this situation one, or will it be given in this situation two? APOB is additional place of business. Yeah, Sampurna, your statement is this means that registration first we see aggregate 40 lakhs, but we apply for registration, then only taxable supply, not exempt supply. So aggregate turnover for registration, we will see 40 lakhs. Yes. Then we will see whether you're doing a taxable supply. If you're doing a taxable supply, you will register. If you're doing exempt supply, you will not register. Your statement is absolutely correct. Miss Harshita, registration ensures seamless flow of credit. Yes. And registration is not centralized. Yes. These are not contradictory. Why I will tell you? Why I will tell you? Because if you are having centralized registration, it means you will get credit for everything. Now, if you are not centralized registration, still you will get the credit because if you are taking services from other state, that credit is still available to you without centralized registration because he will charge you something called as IGST, and IGST credit is available. That's why this credit is seamless. And when you are making supplies within the state, you will charge CGST, SGST. And when you are making interstate supply, you will charge IGST. So whatever sales you do, the GST what you charge is seamlessly available to the recipient. So that's why registration ensures seamless flow of credit, and registration is not centralized or not contradictory because without centralized registration also you can pass on the credits. Okay, centralized registration is different and seamless flow credit is different. Without centralized registration, I can still pass on the credit through the IGST route. Same, sir, the PAN what we use for income tax is the same for GST. Yes, your PAN is PAN. For all India purposes, the PAN is one. With that PAN will be the basis for issuance of GST. Is there any number of limit on number of registration on single PAN? No, no such limit. Can the both registration be maintained in a single place? Yes, it can be because, uh, but the pointer it says is for each place of business. So for each place of business, you will get a separate registration. In case where registration is not required as he's making exempt supply, but if he wants to register on his own wish, can he do so? Yes, that is called as voluntary registration. Voluntary registration. Anytime if you're not touching the threshold limit, I'm making any exempt supply, but you still want to register, you can register. Okay, everybody, most of you are saying that option two. Okay, few people are confused, saying in both the cases he can separate registration because here the business is different, here the location is different. Now the answer is separate registration in scenario one is not possible because the business are operating from a same common location. If you read this sentence, if a person is having multiple places of business, he may be granted separate registration for each place of business. Here it is single place of business, so he will not get separate registration. Here it is same business, but the place of business is different. Since the place of business are different, so he will get separate registration here, but not in this case. Great, great, Vinisha, Mansi, Keshav, Jovita, Bandy Venkatesh, so many people. Yes. Everyone has given a correct answer, but people who are given answers that both situations possible, not possible in such cases. Different locations are different states. There are different locations within the same state. Clear? Tanishka, yes. What is your question? Situation 2, you're right. Okay, let's proceed further. Taxable person. Taxable person means a person who is registered or liable to be registered. Okay, very important. Who is the taxable person? Person who is registered or a person who is required to be registered. Which means when they use the term taxable person in some instances and when they use the term registered person, you have to differentiate. Taxable person means a person who is registered or who is liable to be registered, which means an unregistered person who was supposed to be registered because he's crossed the threshold. He will also be called as a taxable person. But a registered person is a person who is registered under GST. Okay. So once you cross the threshold limit, and if you're not registered, you are still a taxable person. Relevance is that a taxable person is liable to pay GST. Okay, that's why the term taxable person is important, because the input tax credit is available to a registered person, but a person who is registered, who is crossed the limit but not registered, he is a taxable person and he is a person who is liable to be registered, right? So such person is a taxable person. We need to be careful that most of the nomenclatures, the definitions under GST is applicable to a taxable person. So what are the sections under GST which are under registration which are important? Starting with section 22, it says person who is liable for registration. These sections are important. That's why I'm highlighting this here. A person who is liable for registration is covered under 22. 23 says person not liable for registration. Then section 24 says that irrespective of 22 and 23, the following category of people will have to compulsory register. That is section 24. Then 25 is on procedure for registration. It says how to register. 26 is a deemed registration. 27 is registration for special category of people who are casual taxable person and a non-registered taxable person. Non-resident taxable person. Sorry, there's a mistake here. There's a non-resident taxable person. Section 28 is for amendment of registration. Cancellation is 29. And revocation of cancellation is section 30. Okay, so this is the highlight of the sections which we will cover in this topic. Centralized means one registration for all across India. That is the meaning of centralized, Mayur. And seamless means that, let's understand what is not seamless. Then you will understand seamless. Under service tax, a person who is registered in service tax would not get credit of VAT, because before GST there was VAT and service tax. If anything he used to purchase goods, on that he will not get credit because VAT is charged by the local VAT authorities and service tax was by the central tax authorities. So this VAT and service tax was not seamless, because even when you purchase something and pay VAT, you cannot claim the credit. That was called not seamless. In GST, if you purchase goods or you purchase services, you will get credit for both. That is the meaning of seamless. So when we say seamless in the context of GST, when you are purchasing from other state, still you will get the credit of that is the meaning of seamless. Clear? Is it bound in the case of supplier as well as recipient to be registered? From a supplier perspective, he is bound because if he crosses the limit, he has to register. But from the perspective of recipient, okay, from the perspective of recipient, Sushil, he will have to register firstly to claim the credit, because even if he doesn't make any supply and if he's using anything for his future business, right? So in my first example, which I gave when we started the class, a company is registered on the 1st of January. Now they make sales on the 1st of February. So if they're registered from 1st of January, whatever procurements they do, whatever business setup they do, that is all for the purpose of business, right? So they can claim credit for whatever purchases they or services they procure from 1st of January. So from a recipient's perspective, he is not bound, but if he claims it, if he wants to claim credit, then he should register. But one point to be noted is if he is liable to reverse charge, right? Then he will have to immediately register, then the threshold will not apply. So from a supplier's perspective, you will have to see the threshold, but from a recipient's perspective, you will have to see if you're liable under RCM, then the threshold will not apply, immediately you'll have to register. Fine. What is the reason behind if not giving separate registration for common office? How will you bifurcate which business is what? From same business, if you do two things, then on one business, credit may be available. On another business, credit may not be available, but all credit gets accumulated. So there will not be any control. That's the reason, Harish, on a common office, you will not get two registrations. In situation when both the business are using different PAN for registration, then he can take registration for same place of business. Yes, if it's a different PAN, then there are two people, then they can take it. If different PAN, it means there are two different people, right? So then they can take separate registration. Different businesses do not have to take different registration, not required. Within a state, you have 10 businesses and at 10 different locations, you can still operate under one GST registration. If business is in different locations but in the same state, then there is no need for multiple registration. Yes, Neha, Bhavika, no separate registration required. If we have multiple registration and we are sending our own goods to different state, then will it not be taxable? Right. I will come back to that later. But yes, for your question, if you have multiple registration, if you're doing sending of goods, then you will have to charge GST on that. It will be taxable. What is the difference between deemed registration and compulsory registration? There is a difference. We will come back to that. Surrender and suspension. There is only concept of cancellation, suspension, and revocation in GST. If you have different registration, it will be taxable. Yes, if you have two different registration, then it will be taxable. Okay. Now let's go to section 22. It says that every supplier of goods or services or both is required to obtain registration. That is what section 22 states. In a state or union territory from where he makes a taxable supply. So what does 22 say is that every supplier of goods or services is required to obtain registration in the state or union territory from where he's making a taxable supply. So from where I am making a taxable supply, from where a taxable person is making a supply, that place you will have to register. Okay? If his aggregate turnover is greater than the specified threshold limit. So the criteria to look for registration is the aggregate turnover. Okay? Now registration के लिए हम क्या देखेंगे? Registration के लिए one term we will look around is aggregate turnover. If my aggregate turnover is more than the threshold, then I will have to register. Now, what is this aggregate turnover? Aggregate turnover is simple. Aggregate turnover includes What all values it includes? It includes taxable supplies, all supplies on which tax is payable, that is called taxable supplies. Then exempt supply. So any supplies on which I am exempted, not liable to pay GST, okay, don't pay. But for criteria of looking at the registration, I will have to include it. So I will have to include the exempted turnover for counting the value. If this value exceeds, then I have to take registration. For that value, I have to take exempt supplies also. Then exports, that also I have to include. Exports are zero rated, but for calculation of aggregate turnover, I have to include that also. So basically all kinds of turnover, all kinds of outward supplies, I'll have to include it. And interstate supply, why specific mention of interstate supply? Because you can say that interstate I'm paying IGST. So why are you including here? That's why to avoid that confusion, the government that says any interstate supplies, you will have to include it. Now, all of this of whose turnover? Turnover of persons having the same PAN number shall be computed on all India basis. Persons having the same PAN shall be computed on all India basis. So if you're having multiple locations, multiple places in India, the turnover of all over India will have to be considered. Okay. What it excludes, what will not be considered is CGST, SGST, UTGST, IGST, and cess, which means that any taxes what you levy on your supply, you don't have to include because that is on top of supply. So if I'm making, say, the threshold limit is 20 lakhs, if I'm making a turnover of 18 lakhs with the GST, if you include, right, then it will cross 20 lakhs. So don't include that tax value is what the government is saying because that's a tax, right? So any taxes under GST will have to be excluded. Then the value of inward supplies on which tax is payable under reverse charge. You pay taxes under reverse charge, right? That value shall not be included because that will the turnover of the supplier. Now we know the RCM very nicely of a typical example of a advocate. Now advocate is supplying something to you. Advocate doesn't charge GST, you pay GST. But you're not paying the GST as an outward supply. You're paying this GST as an inward supply. So it is not your turnover, it is the turnover of the advocate, right? Now, aggregate turnover for the purpose of the registration is 20 lakhs, right? The threshold limit is 20 lakhs under section 22, but it is reduced to 10 lakhs for special category states. And of this special category states, only 4 special category states have said that we will go for reduced turnover limit. For other special category states, it is still at 20 lakhs. For 4 special category states, which is stated as TNMM. To easily understand, we have a special author called T.N. Manoran. From his guidance, I could read good income tax at my intermediate. So that's why I've used this nomenclature here. T stands for Tripura, N stands for Nagaland, M stands for Mizoram, and M stands for Manipur. So people, a person who is registered and is doing any business in these states, Tripura, Nagaland, Mizoram, and Manipur, they will have to take registration once they cross the limit of 10 lakhs. And for all other states, they will have to take registration once they cross 20 lakhs. Okay. Now, take a case where Dayanand Sagar, what we understood now based on that, Dayanand Sagar is providing legal services to Azim Premji Private Limited for rupees 30 lakhs. Okay, we know the threshold limit is 20 lakhs, it's crossed it. Now, oh, the answer is here. Included, I wanted to ask you, but unfortunately the answer is popped up that this turnover of 30 lakhs is included in aggregate turnover of the company or the provider. On a legal services, Dayanand Sagar providing to a company, it is under reverse charge. So it should be the tax which will be paid by Azim Premji. But whose turnover is this? So the turnover is calculated on the basis of outward supply. Dayanand Sagar is making an outward supply, so it will be included in his turnover and not in the turnover of Asim Premji Private Limited. Ninad, good question. If a aggregate turnover does not cross a threshold limit, then the supplier is not required to pay tax, or he has to pay tax from his pocket. He need not pay from his pocket. He will have to not collect and not pay the tax. Okay, he will not have to collect and he need not pay the tax. Fine. It does not include zero rated supply. Yeah, it includes zero rated supply. So when we say export, zero rated supply includes exports and SEZ. So that is also included. तन्नु, एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर को हिंदी में एक्सप्लेन कीजिए. बहुत सिंपल है. एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर क्या बोलता है? एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर बोलता है कि आपको जब एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर आप कैलकुलेट करते हो, जब क्या क्या चीजें आपको इंक्लूड करनी है, क्या क्या टर्नओवर आपको इकट्ठा करना है जिससे वो एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर होके आपको रजिस्ट्रेशन लेना है, ये चेतावनी दे दे. क्या इंक्लूड करना है? टैक्सेबल सप्लाईज, मतलब जो भी सप्लाई करोगे जिसके ऊपर टैक्स भरना है. ठीक है, आप चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट सर्विस प्रोवाइड करते हो, मोबाइल बेचते हो, ठीक है, टैक्स रेट कुछ भी हो, चाहे 5% हो, चाहे 3% हो, चाहे 12% हो या 28% हो, वो तो है टैक्सेबल ही. जो भी आप कुछ भी टैक्सेबल सप्लाई करते हो उसे आपको इंक्लूड करना ही है. फिर एग्जेम्प्ट सप्लाईज, घर किराए पे दिया किसने? एक कंपनी ने. ठीक है, या फिर कुछ सर्विसेज है जो एग्जेम्प्टेड रहती है. जैसे मैंने किसी स्कूल को सप्लाई किया है, जो हमने एग्जेम्पशन में पढ़ा है. अगर मैं स्कूल को कुछ सर्विस प्रोवाइड करता हूँ, उसके ऊपर मैं चार्ज नहीं करता हूँ जीएसटी, लेकिन वो एग्जेम्प्ट सप्लाई में कहलाएगा और एग्जेम्प्टेड सप्लाई को भी इसमें इंक्लूड करना पड़ेगा. ठीक है, इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? अगर एक स्कूल या कॉलेज जो मेजरली एग्जाम सप्लाई प्रोवाइड करती है, लेकिन उनका थ्रेशोल्ड क्रॉस हो जाता है, वो तो हम आराम से 20 लाख रुपए साल का कमाएगी. लेकिन वो अगर एक 10,000 रुपए का भी एक सेल कर दें, चाहे कि समझिए एक हॉस्पिटल है, उसका कलेक्शन हो जाएगा 50 लाख रुपए साल का, पूरा एग्जेम्प्टेड है, करेक्ट? तो एग्जेम्प्टेड के ऊपर तो टैक्स तो नहीं पे करेगा, लेकिन उसने 10,000 रुपए की एक जगह भाड़े पे दे दी होटल वाले को. तो इस 10,000 पे उसको जीएसटी भरना चाहिए या नहीं भरना चाहिए? वो बताइए आप. गजेंद्र, TNMMS त्रिपुरा, नागालैंड, मिजोरम, मणिपुर. एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर में इंक्लूड कर रहे हैं. यस, एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर में इंक्लूड कर रहे हैं. हम एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर की बात कर रहे हैं, एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर में हम इंक्लूड करेंगे ही. करेक्ट. हॉस्पिटल को जीएसटी भरना पड़ेगा. क्यों भरना पड़ेगा भाई? टर्नओवर का थ्रेशोल्ड लिमिट तो 20 लाख है और मैं तो सिर्फ 10,000 रुपए महीने का भाड़ा चढ़ा रहा हूँ. इसका मतलब 1,20,000 है. तो 1,20,000 20 लाख से कम हुआ ना, तो फिर क्यों भरना चाहिए जीएसटी? भूमि पट्टीदार, यहाँ 11 स्पेशल कैटेगरी स्टेट्स आर देयर, बट फॉर द पर्पस ऑफ दिस थ्रेशोल्ड ओनली 4 states have said that our limit has to be less, so that's why only 4 states will come under this category. Correct. So two people have given correct answer, but aggregate turnover includes exempt supply also, and it is a taxable supply. तो अपने को 1,20,000 रुपए है, लेकिन रजिस्ट्रेशन के लिए या टैक्सेबल पोजीशन के लिए हमको पूरा एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर देखना पड़ेगा. मेरे केस में हॉस्पिटल 50 लाख रुपए का टर्नओवर करता है, क्योंकि एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर थ्रेशोल्ड लिमिट से क्रॉस हो जाता है तो उसको रजिस्ट्रेशन लेके पे करना पड़ेगा. ठीक है. और एक्सपोर्ट्स भी इंक्लूड हो जाएगा, एक्सपोर्ट्स, एसईजेड सप्लाई सब कुछ इंक्लूड हो जाएगा. और इंटरस्टेट, एक स्टेट से दूसरे स्टेट सब आप सप्लाई करते हो, उसे भी इंक्लूड करना चाहिएगा. अगर मेरा ब्रांच यहाँ पे है तो सिर्फ मेरा ब्रांच का टर्नओवर मैं नहीं देखूंगा, पूरे इंडिया का टर्नओवर में अगर मेरा क्रॉस होता है तब मुझे रजिस्ट्रेशन लेने की जरूरत है. ठीक है. लेकिन जो भी मैं जीएसटी चार्ज करता हूं उसे मुझे इंक्लूड करने की जरूरत नहीं है, क्योंकि वो तो टैक्स ही है. टैक्स को मैं फिर से टर्नओवर में इंक्लूड नहीं करूंगा. फिर वैल्यू ऑफ इनवर्ट सप्लाईज, जो रिवर्स चार्ज हमने डिस्कस किया था. ठीक है. आपने पूरा डिटेल में रिवर्स चार्ज डिस्कस किया था. वो रिवर्स चार्ज जो मैं रिसीवर हूं, मैं पे करता हूं, उससे मुझे रिसीवर के रूप में पे करना है, मुझे उसको एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर में ऐड नहीं करना. तो ये कहता है एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर. तो अब ये एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर जब 20 लाख के ऊपर क्रॉस हो जाए तब मुझे रजिस्ट्रेशन लेना है. और 4 स्पेशल स्टेट्स है, त्रिपुरा, नागालैंड, मिजोरम और मणिपुर. उनके लिए लिमिट्स कम है उनका, क्योंकि उनकी आर्थिक परिस्थिति, इकोनॉमिक सिचुएशन अच्छी नहीं है. तो उन्होंने कहा कि अगर 10 लाख के ऊपर भी कोई सप्लाई करता है तो हम उसको रजिस्ट्रेशन देने की कोशिश करते हैं. तो इसलिए ये 4 स्टेट में 10 लाख है, बाकी सब स्टेट में 20 लाख का लिमिट है. समझे अभी? If exempt supply crosses 20 lakhs, then he should get registration. Nenshi and Bhumi, you have a common question that if I'm making only exempt supply, right, and I'm crossing 20 lakhs, then should I take registration? According to section 22, you have to take, okay, because हम सिर्फ section 22 पढ़ रहे हैं. So 22 says that you have to take registration, but there is a exemption which says that, we'll come to that further, which says that if you make any exempt turnover only, purely exempt turnover, then you are exempted from taking registration. Okay. But otherwise, till now what we have read, we'll go step by step. अभी तक section 22 में क्या explain किया है कि if you are having threshold above the threshold limit, turnover above threshold limit, you have to register. So answer now is, it is you have to take registration, but that answer will change when we go to that exemption notification. Please explain how rental income can be charged under GST. Rental, if a hotelier is there, you're giving him on rent, right? This is a commercial rent. So on that, you will have to charge GST. I've mentioned 20 lakhs for TNMM. No, I mentioned 10 lakhs for TNMM. 20 lakhs. I mentioned annual turnover more than 20 lakhs, which means for all states, and 10 lakhs specially for special category states. Okay, let's proceed further. So our question on Dayanand Sagar, everybody understood, right? So it will be included in the turnover of the advocate and not as the turnover of the recipient, even though tax is paid by the recipient. Aggregate turnover excludes CGST, SGST. Then what about TCS? Will it be excluded? Yes, the circular says that TCS also is an interim levy and it is not having a character of tax. So TCS also, which is paid extra on top of our supply, will not be included. Then what is the value of exported service, goods or services, exempt goods or services, interstate supply between distinct persons with same PAN to be included? Okay. So when we do a taxable supply, if we are making any supply between two registration entities, If you're making to an outsider, definitely it's a taxable supply. But within the same pan, you are one entity, but you are having two different registrations. Then one supplied to another place, whatever is my sale becomes his purchase. जब हम branch accounting करते हैं, when we do branch accounting, the supply from one branch to another branch gets offset. But for this turnover threshold limit, even though it gets nullified, but it is a taxable supply and it has to be included. Then turnover on own account or on account of principal is to be included, which means that we know that turnover could be on my own account or on behalf of somebody else. If I'm doing it on somebody else's account, then also it will be included. If the agent does on behalf of the principal, it will be turnover in the agent's hands. Aggregate turnover versus turnover in a state. Why this is relevant? The threshold limit, we will calculate aggregate turnover, but for the purpose of payment of tax, I will not pay tax on the aggregate turnover. I will pay on the taxable turnover made in a state. Okay, so the for threshold limit, I will look at aggregate turnover. For payment of taxes, I'll pay on the turnover in a state. Aisha, yes, zero rated supply to SEZ will be included. It will be included in the turnover. If anyone is making online services less than threshold limit, is he liable for registration? Yes, we will come to that. There are some people who are compulsorily required to be registered under section 24. That time your answer will get clarified. So for example, I have two branches, one in special category state like Manipur, another one in Karnataka. Both branches have 9 lakh turnover each. So I need to take registration because I'm crossing 10 lakh. Due to have a branch, is it correct, sir? Just wait for Nagaraj. Same your example I'm taken in the next slide. Please tell the fourth point again. Turnover on account, on own account, whether I make a turnover or I make a turnover on account of principal, it has to be included. So when a turnover is done by the agent on his behalf, okay, then it will be included in the agent's turnover itself. TCS included or not? TCS not included. TCS is interim revenue and not having the character of taxes. So turnover excludes this and it excludes TCS also. Let me clearly write it here. Otherwise you will get confused. TCS turnover excludes TCS. Like how turnover excludes taxes, similarly TCS is also excluded. Now we know who is a job worker, right? A job worker is a person who takes goods from the principal, does act and supplies it to the original person again. So for a job worker, what is his turnover? He gets goods worth 50 lakhs, right? And he does some kind of job work services on this. His job work charges is 50,000 rupees. Okay. 50 lakhs ka goods aaya, job work charges is 50,000 rupees. So what is his turnover? Intrastate supply included in turnover, whether different registration or not. Very right. So intrastate supply is included irrespective of whether that other branch is registered under GST or not. That's right. Schedule 1 para 3 will be included in agent's turnover. Yes, it will be included in agent's turnover. Harish Chandra, if freight is included in tax invoice, then is it considered for calculating aggregate turnover? Yes, you would have read during the concept of supply that it is a composite supply. So such freight will also be included as a part of turnover. Okay, so in case of job worker, Tanishka, what is a job worker? आपको सोने का कुछ कारीगरी करना है. आपने कस्टमर से ऑर्डर ले लिया लेकिन आप बनाओगे नहीं उसको, आप एक कारीगर को दोगे. करेक्ट. जो कारीगर को आप सोना दोगे वो ज्वेलरी का डिजाइन बना के देगा, उसे कहते हैं जॉब वर्कर. ठीक है. तो हम तो सोने की जगह पे समझ गए, लेकिन बड़ी बड़ी इंडस्ट्रीज, बड़े बड़े कंपनीज में भी जॉब वर्कर होते हैं. ठीक है. जो अपने गुड्स जॉब वर्कर को देते हैं, वो कुछ काम करके लौटा देते हैं, उन्हें कहते हैं जॉब वर्कर. ठीक है. सो इन अवर एग्जांपल फॉर द जॉब वर्कर, उसका चार्जेस 50,000 है और वैल्यू ऑफ गुड्स इज 50 lakhs. तो 50 lakhs उसका टर्नओवर नहीं रहेगा. सो following supplies will not be included as this turnover. That is good which he is returning to the principal. I supplied him 50 lakh worth of goods. He is returning back to me. That is not his supply. His supply is only 50,000, his charges. Then goods sent to another job worker, because job worker में concept होता है कि that there are multiple activities which is involved. I will send to job worker Ramu. Ramu will sell to Shamu. So when Ramu sends it to Shamu, that is also not a turnover of the Ramu's job work charges. His job work charges is only his turnover. Then goods directly supplied from his premises by the principal. Ramu ko de diya. Ramu, do the finishing part. From there only you supply it to the my ultimate customer. Still, it is my turnover, not Ramu's turnover. That is what this clarification says, that job workers turnover is only his charges, because the movement of goods is happening on behalf of the principal. Right. Next is on the threshold calculation. The threshold limit is 20 lakhs for the financial year, right? But 20 lakhs is reduced to 10 lakhs in case of Tripura, Nagaland, Mizoram, and Manipur. Then what does it mean? The question, somebody has asked the same question. If a company has a branch in Mizoram and Kerala, then what happens to the threshold limit for Kerala? For Kerala, the limit is 20 lakhs. For Mizoram, the limit is 10 lakhs. Correct? So two separate states. Then what happens is, if you are in a special category state where the limit is below 10 lakhs, you have to register. So is it possible that you will register in Manipur, in Mizoram in our case, and not register in Kerala? That is not possible. So if you have any one branch in one of these states, then ultimately the other places limit also will automatically get reduced. Clear? Nagraju, your question is answered here. Gunjan, if a person is registered under GST and his turnover is 20 lakhs, not in a special category state, then he have to pay tax to government? You tell me based on this example. I'm getting your answers very slow. Is it a technical problem or is it a realistic problem that you're responding slowly today? Please repeat once again. Limit is not reduced for Kerala. That's right. The question what I'm asking is, if a person is registered under GST and his turnover is 12 lakhs and he's not in a special category state, then will he have to pay GST tax to the government or no? Lokesh, the limit will not be 20 lakhs in Kerala in this case. Okay, in this case, since he has one branch in Mizoram, then the threshold for Mizoram is 10 lakhs. That doesn't get increased. So the threshold for Kerala is reduced. Okay, so the threshold for Kerala is reduced to 10 lakhs. So if you are doing any turnover in Kerala and you are crossing 12 lakhs, you're crossing 10 lakhs, you're having a turnover of 12 lakhs, you will have to take registration. Right. So everybody is given answer to Mr. Gunjan Kumar that he need not take registration because turnover is less than 12 lakhs and it is having turnover in only one state and no other state. So the turnover for that remains as 10 lakhs. Okay. Now the threshold limit, we said that till now we know that the threshold is 20 lakhs. Now we come to a special exemption notification, which was introduced on 7th January 2019. This notification is important because this says that the limit of 20 lakhs will become 40 lakhs for special category of supplies. What is that special category of supply? Notification of 10 of 2019 says the limit is 40 lakhs who are in exclusive supply of goods. So the limit of 20 lakhs was general for any person who's making any services and persons who are making services and goods mix, but who are exclusively making any supply of goods. Then the limit is increased, is enhanced to 40 lakhs. Okay. Now we'll see that for special category of states, that limit is again reduced to 20 lakhs. Fine. But now this 40 lakhs limit, say for a normal state, it is 40 lakh rupees. Now, if I cross 40 lakhs, then I will have to take registration. I am a trader. मैं trading करता हूँ. I only buy goods and sell goods. When I am a trader, my threshold limit, because I'm making any only supply of goods, I am not into any kind of services, right? So for me, I don't have to pay GST till I touch the limit of 40 lakhs, right? So for normal services, limit is 20 lakhs and for is 40 lakhs. ये हम समझ गए normal cases में. Special TNMM cases में other special category states will come to that. ठीक है, अभी के लिए समझने के लिए हम ये समझ जाएंगे कि दो थ्रेशोल्ड लिमिट है, 20 lakhs for services, 40 lakhs for goods, right? 40 lakhs जो सिर्फ गुड्स अप्लाई करता है उनके लिए, और 20 lakhs जो सर्विसेज और गुड्स मिलके करते हैं उनके लिए 20 लाख है, राइट? लेकिन ये एग्जेम्पशन जो ये नोटिफिकेशन देता है, नोटिफिकेशन नंबर 10 of 2019, it says that following persons cannot opt for this. Who are those people? People who are covered under compulsory registration. So people who are covered under the category of compulsory registration, they cannot say that I will wait for 40 lakhs, because the meaning of compulsory registration itself is that you have to compulsory register. Okay. since you have to compulsorily register 7th March 2019. Yes, right. So compulsory registered people will have to take registration. For them, this exemption will not apply. Then second category of people is people who are dealing in special category of goods, which are ice cream, pan masala, tobacco and tobacco substitute products. This was the items which was there. Then there was an amendment and additional items were brought in, which is fly ash bricks, bricks of fossil meal, building bricks, earthen and roofing tiles. क्योंकि brick जो बना के trading करते हैं, उनके लिए this exemption will not apply. जो आइसक्रीम सप्लाई करते हैं, पान मसाला, टोबैको और टोबैको सब्स्टिट्यूट प्रोडक्ट सप्लाई करते हैं, for them this 40 lakhs will not apply. So you have to be very careful in your question that once you see 40 lakhs, you can say yes, yes, term exemption is there, and once he cross 40 lakhs only he has to pay GST. Once he's trading goods, no. You have to know the nature of business. Whether they are dealing in these specific type of goods, then 40 lakhs will not apply to them. उनको हर small amount पे भी registration लेने की जरूरत पड़ेगी. Okay. Then persons who are opted for voluntary registration. Person who has taken registration voluntarily. I have taken registration voluntarily under 2017. Then this notification came. So I will say you give me the benefit of this notification. Government is saying no, no. You had taken the registration voluntarily. Now you cannot get out of it. So once you take a registration, whether voluntarily or compulsorily, if your turnover first year was 40 lakhs, so you have taken registration. Next year, your turnover dipped 30 lakhs. Third year, 20 lakhs. Fourth year, 10 lakhs. Sir, my turnover for last 3 years is below 40 lakhs. So for past 3 years, don't ask me GST. Can you say that? You cannot say that. Do you think you can say that? No, you cannot say. Yes. Bhavika, if persons are out of exclusive supply of goods, they have to pay when turnover is 20 lakhs. You're right. Mayur, you're also right. If it's in a mix of goods and services, then it is 20 lakhs. You're right. He has to pay even if he's not crossing limit. You're right. Once registered, we have to comply for GST laws. But yes, if you are anticipating that आपका turnover अभी गिर गया है and you see that this year, next year also your turnover will be less, then you can cancel your registration. Manohar, you're absolutely right. That's an option. That if you see that your turnover is depleting, then you can cancel your registration and say later on when it increases, you can apply for registration. That's possible. Everybody is right. Okay. So person who is opted for voluntary registration has to comply for all this requirement of collecting and paying of taxes. Then the next category of person who is out of this is person who is engaged in intrastate supply in 10 states. In effect, 6 states, because the special category states, 4 states have opted for 10 lakhs, and there are other states like other 6 states which said that we don't want this limit. Because मेरे स्टेट में अगर 40 lakhs turnover कोई कर रहा है and I don't collect taxes from him, it's not possible because I'm a small state. So any person who's doing 20 lakhs, from him also if I collect tax, then I will submit. So who are these 6 category of states? Very simple. TNMM तो हमको पता ही है. TNMM state says that I will stick on to 10 lakhs for both goods and services. Okay. So if you do goods, you do exclusive goods, you do exclusive services, you do mixed goods and services, I don't care. TNMM fellows, 10 lakhs cross कर दिया, pay GST. Then the other special category states, which are these 6 states, because total 10 states, 4 states are out. Then these 6 states says that we will have a threshold of 20 lakhs. 10 lakhs will be very small for us. We are a little bigger. So we'll keep a turnover of 20 lakhs. Though, so for them, they had an option saying that you tell if you want a turnover of 40 lakhs. They said, no, we will not opt for that 10 of 2019 notification. So for us, we will not opt for that. So in our state, if anybody is doing turnover of goods of 20 lakhs also, we will collect GST from them. They will have to register compulsorily. Those 6 states are Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Sikkim, Uttarakhand, Puducherry, and Telangana. Okay? All northeast mostly. Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Sikkim, Uttarakhand, Puducherry, and Telangana are the extra states. Okay? For them, 20 lakhs you cross for goods or services, you are registered. So 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs. Third category is normal, 20 lakhs for services, 40 lakhs for goods. So when we say the threshold limit, we need to be careful that generally, because we have 31, 27 states plus 6 union territories, so totally 33. So for these 33, out of these 10, balance, everybody is coming under the category of 20 lakhs and 40 lakhs. That is, the threshold is 20 lakhs for services or for supply of both goods and services mix. And for exclusive goods is 40 lakhs. Okay. Now, who are this? Specifically, they've said Jammu and Kashmir, Assam, and Himachal Pradesh. Why specifically? Because they are actually special category states, but they didn't opt for that. That's why iska specific mention hai. And all other states, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Rajasthan, everybody will come under this other states wherein the limit is 20 lakhs for services and 40 lakhs for exclusive supply of goods. Now, this exclusive supply of goods is only exclusive supply of intrastate goods. Kyun bhai? Because under compulsory registration, it says that a person who's making interstate supply, okay, is liable for registration. Okay, so once you make any interstate supply under 24, we will read, if you are making any interstate supply, then you have to compulsory register. Let's say specifically, if you're making 40 lakhs of intrastate, okay. Second point is, even if it is engaged in exempt services provided by way of extending deposits, loans, or advances, and so far as the consideration is represented by way of interest discount, that has to be excluded. Okay. Now, such interest will be excluded. Otherwise, everything else will be included. Matlab, if I'm making any turnover of only trading of goods and I'm having some interest income, then this is services. Should I register? Will I get this limit of 40 lakhs? I will still get it, because this is an exemption saying that even since giving of loan and collecting interest is a service, but that's an exempt service. So only for this service, if you're doing, then you can register for, you can opt out of registration for the 40 lakhs limit. Clear with this? Bricks of fossil wheel matlab, basically there are bricks which are made of some fossil elements. So they are called as special category bricks. Generally, we have seen bricks made of mud, right? But some special category of fossil meals are there. If you're doing that, then also you will be out of this limit. Jammu and Kashmir is now divided. Yes, Jammu, Kashmir, and you have a special union territory, but still that is coming under the general category. They are not coming under the 10 and 20 lakhs. How do we remember this rate table? First one, very simple. 4 category of states, 10 lakhs. Second category of states, 20 lakhs. Third category, 20 and 40. First category, TNMM, Tripura, Nagaland, Mizoram, Manipur. Second is 6 category. That is PAT SAM. What is PAT? Puducherry, Put Sam, not Pat Sam, Put Sam. Puducherry, Uttarakhand, Telangana, Put Sam, Sikkim, Meghalaya, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya. Okay, Put Sam for the second category of states with this 20 and 40, and or second category is 20 for both goods and services, and third category is 20 for services and 40 for goods. Easy to understand now? Sweetie Kumari, if a person is engaged in supply of goods only in Manipur, then the limit is 10 lakhs? Yes, limit is 10 lakhs. Okay. Please explain the interstate supply concept. So, I was explaining this concept of a person who is engaged exclusively in interstate supply of goods, because under compulsory registration, we will see further now that the threshold limit does not apply in case of special category of people which are there under section 24 under compulsory registration. So if anybody is falling under the category of that people under section 24, right, who are special category of businesses, there it says that a person who is making interstate supply of goods, you don't have to wait for the threshold. You will have to register once you make an interstate supply. Take an example. I am making 5 lakh worth of intrastate supply within the state. Now I've got an order from outside the state and I make a supply. It is an interstate supply. My limit of interstate is I've made a supply, got an order for 1 lakh. So once I make an interstate supply, my threshold will not apply. So on that 1 lakh, before making that interstate supply of 1 lakh, I have to take registration, pay GST on that, even though my limit is below the 10 lakhs of value. Clear? That is this point which says that the limit of 20 and 40 lakhs is applicable for persons engaged exclusively in intrastate supply of goods. If you make interstate supply, this limit will not apply. I will again explain this. Yeah, I think it's time to take a break also. Yes, we'll take a break in 1 minute. Before that, I'll just take a few questions. What if the person is having business in Sikkim? Okay, Sikkim is under the second category. Now he is engaged only in supply of goods. Then what will be the threshold limit? If he's engaged only in goods, still the limit is 20 lakhs. If I supply 100% exempt supply, even though I'm crossing the threshold, I need not take registration. Yes, you don't have to take registration. Gajendra Kumar, yes. Can we summarize it as all three categories of engaged in interstate supply? No, not all three categories. Only the third category, because first two categories, the limit is 10 lakhs only. So if you are I'm sorry, you're right. So if you're making any interstate supply, you will have to take compulsory registration without any threshold limit, and the threshold will apply only for intrastate supply. You're right. What about UT? All other states includes UT also, right? Since, see, Puducherry is also in UT. Since they are specifically opted for that, they are coming under second category. All other states and UT will come under the third category itself. If one supplier supply goods to two supplier who is not liable to GST registration and not taken registration, then supplier one what to do? Supplier one is registered, he will have to charge GST. So the turnover is from the supplier's perspective. If you are registered, you will pay. The receiver is registered or no is not your criteria. If he's not registered, then that GST, what you'll charge, will become his cost. He cannot claim ITC. But if he cannot claim ITC, that doesn't mean you should not charge. You should still charge and he will pay you. So जब आप शू खरीदने जाते हो, आप GST registered नहीं हो. Supplier तो GST charge करता ही है. Think from your practical aspect. So when we as an unregistered person go and buy something, GST is still levied because it's an indirect tax, right? So GST will still be levied and it will not be debarred. So he will collect from the customer and pay to the government. Okay, so we'll take a break of around 5 to 7 minutes. Then we'll come back through this because everybody are confused. Go through this slide, ask your question because this is a very good slide. I would say it is self-explanatory. But still, if you have any questions, we will take up after the break. Thank you. So the questions what I've received, let us answer that first. Okay, explain the note 2 given below. Okay, so the note 2 is the one which is saying that, see, when I'm saying 40 lakhs is for goods, it is exclusive goods itself. Okay, it is not for mix of services. So even if you do little bit of services, you will not get the benefit of 40 lakhs. You will go under 20 lakhs. Say I am supplying air conditioners. Now, when I'm supplying this air conditioners, some small installation work I've done, right? So it is not exclusive supply of goods. It is services because I've charged a separate services bill. Okay, so my limit will become 20 lakhs, not 40 lakhs. Clear? Now I am only doing trading of goods. I am not doing any services, but I had some money. Now that money I have invested in a fixed deposit. On that I have got interest, right? The definitions of goods and services under GST is such that services means anything other than goods, correct? So this interest is a service. Now on that, there is a exemption saying that on the interest, there is no GST. That's why on the interest on the banker does not charge the GST, correct? Now, I have invested this money. This is an exempt service. Here we are telling that it should be exclusive supply of goods. Now, the small interest what I've got, or any interest what I've got from the interest from the amount which is deposited in the FD, since this is services, so will I be thrown out of this limit of 40 lakhs? That's why this point is saying that even if you are engaged in exempt supply of services by way of extending deposits, loans, or advances, you will not be out of this 40 lakhs. You can still get the benefit of 40 lakhs only if you are having one type of service, which is giving a loan to somebody and getting interest, depositing this money in the bank and getting interest. That will not be counted as non-exclusive supply of goods. You will still be categorized as a person who is doing exclusive supply of goods. That is what this second point is saying. Clear? So, Sarji, if I make interstate supply, then I take registration mandatory as per 24. You're right. Sir, in what category Lakshadweep will come? Lakshadweep will come under all other states and union territories. So they will come under the 20 lakhs for services and 40 lakhs for goods criteria. If I got a works contracts of 15 lakhs of border fencing of Mizoram and Assam, then what will be the case scenario? Sir, we have discussed in the very clearly in the place of supply. If such work you are doing, the place of supply video you will see on the how much square feet you are doing in Mizoram and how much square foot you are doing in Assam, that will be the proportion. So there, if you're doing, if you're where you are registered, if you are registered in Assam, then for you, you will have to see what kind, it's a service. So in Mizoram, how much you're doing, Assam, how much you're doing, you have to bifurcate based on that. Ankur, if a person makes 99% exempt supply, okay, only 1% is taxable supply and his turnover exceeds threshold limit, then he is also liable to registration. Yes, he is liable for registration. That's the very reason why the threshold is set. Otherwise, they would not have set the threshold. They have set a threshold and they have specifically said that exempt turnover also has to be included. That so that tomorrow you should not escape from this 1% turnover liable to tax. Okay, so 1% taxable also if you're doing and you are making lot of exempt turnover, still you will have to pay GST only on the taxable turnover. What is the threshold limit if the person is making supply of all in all category states? This is the third criteria, right? 20 lakhs and 40 lakhs. What is the threshold limit if a person is making supplies in all categories? I didn't understand your question, Nistala. Can you please explain it clearly? Even though a person is not supplying goods exclusively of more than 40 lakhs in Telangana, then threshold limit is still 20 lakhs. Your question is again not clear because states with threshold of 20 lakhs for both goods and services is there. So in Telangana, if you are making any supply about 20 lakhs, you will be compulsorily liable for registration. Section 24 is the overruling section. You're right. So 24 overrules other sections because 24 says such notwithstanding. So it's a special section wherein these special category of people will have to register. Clear with threshold? Aisha, I'm not sure on your question. Not able to answer. Okay, so we understood the threshold, right? Now let's proceed with other aspects, which is, yeah, this we have covered. Now registration for supply. Okay. Registration for supply is from or to, which means is registration required from a place where I make a supply, or is it also required at a place where I make a supply? Hope you understood my question. Is registration required from a place where I make a supply, or is it required where I make a supply to? If a person is making supplies in Mizoram, Sikkim, and Himachal, then what is the threshold limit? Good question, Mr. Tala. What will be the, so there are two questions. What will be the threshold limit if a person is making supply from Mizoram, Sikkim, and Himachal Pradesh? Hardik, your questions are not appearing. Could you please post your questions? And the second question is what is there in your screen is registration for supply from or to. If a petrol pump is selling MS and high speed diesel, turnover is 35 lakhs. Okay. And along with tanker services, whether he is required to register under GST. Now, MS and high speed diesel, I understand is exempt. What is this tanker services, Avdesh? Can you please explain? Okay. Where I make a supply from, that's right. So where I make a supply from, I have to register and not where I supply to. Because wherever I am supplying, I don't have to, suppose I'm supplying petroleum from my state Karnataka to Tamil Nadu. So I don't have to register there. I have to register from. So that's what this point is clarifying that I have to take registration from where I am supplying. If I am having a branch in Tamil Nadu and from that branch, if I make a supply, that will also become from. So every place from where I make a supply, there I have to register. If it is not a place from where I am making any supply, then I don't have to register. Right. So on the other question, okay, on the TNMM. So if I have registration in Telangana and what was your question? Mizoram, Sikkim, and Himachal Pradesh. Then what is the threshold limit for each of these states? Great. Ankur is saying that yes, the limit of TNMM will apply, which means he's saying that limit of 10 lakhs will apply. Everybody, most of you are saying that it is 10 lakhs. You're right. So the limit of 10 lakhs will apply. So if you're having registration in all of these three categories, the registration threshold limit reduces to 10 lakhs in all the states. So in Mizoram, if you're making 2 lakhs, in Himachal, you're making 2 lakhs, and in Sikkim, you're making 8 lakhs. Even in these two states, if the limit is below the 10 lakh limits, overall limit aggregate turnover is about 10 lakhs. So you will have to take registration in all the states. Okay. Clear, Nishtala? Shweta, no, that will not become 10, 20, 30, 40. It will all become 10 lakhs. The best part is the same question what I gave you at the time on Mizoram and Kerala, same thing. So if one registration or one branch is in one of these TNMM states, then the limit of that state will apply for all the other branches. It will not be different then. Okay. Of these, there is a tanker services to IOC for uh, carrying, distribution, HSD, and MS. Okay. So that is a taxable supply. And this is a turnover of non-taxable supply. Now, since you're crossing the limit of 20 lakhs because it's a service, no, petrol is a goods, right? So it is a category of goods where an exclusive supply is there. Now, since you've crossed the limit on that, you will have to take registration and you have to pay GST on the tanker services. Okay. So registration is from and not to. Registration is required only for a registration is required only for a place of business from where taxable supply takes place. Further, registration is required to be obtained only in the state or states where the supplier has a fixed establishment. Okay. If you're not having a fixed establishment, then from there you don't have to register. Take this example to understand this phrase in a better manner. If a person has only liaison office or marketing office in a state, matlab, marketing office, you will not make any supply. Liaison office means we are only liaisoning. Okay, you're only doing liaison between the supplier and receiver or their customers and other people. You are not doing any taxable transaction, which means there is no active supply of goods or services and there is no taxable supply from that state, then he is not required to obtain registration in that state, even if he is registered in other states. So having a branch in other state means that it is a distinct person, but registration in that state is not compulsory because you have to make a taxable supply from that state. In case of a marketing office or a license office, you are not making any taxable supply, so registration is not required. This beautiful example, which is given in the study material, I would like to reiterate here that a person is having registered office as Delhi. Now he imports goods which are landed in Mumbai seaport. Okay. And he enters into a sale agreement with a customer in Mumbai itself so that this customer can directly take the goods from the port. Now, even though the supply is in the state of Mumbai, this person who is registered in Delhi is not required to obtain a registration as Mumbai since he does not have a fixed establishment in Mumbai. So registration in other states is required if you make a taxable supply and you're having a fixed establishment. If you're not having a fixed establishment and if you're doing any transaction there, still you don't have to take registration. Okay, that is the point. What will be the limits of place of businesses in Himachal and Arunachal? Good question. principal limit if the place is in Himachal and Arunachal. Arunachal is under 20 lakh limits and Himachal is under 20 and 40. So if you cross 20, you have to take registration in both the states. So that is applicable. So same how we understood TNMM 10 lakhs, similarly that will apply to a category of second category of states and third category of states. If I supply the exempt supply from Mizoram and taxable supply from Mumbai, what will be my threshold limit? Good question. So the limit will still be 10 lakhs. Okay. But in Mizoram, if I'm making only exempt supply, I will not register. I will register in Mumbai if my aggregate turnover crosses 10 lakhs. So the aggregate turnover limit you have to see overall, but from the state from where I'm making non-taxable supply or exempt supply, I don't have to register. Good question, Harish. Hope everybody's followed it. I'll repeat the question for your benefit. If I'm supplying exempt supply from Mizoram and taxable supply from Mumbai, then what is my threshold limit? The threshold limit is 10 lakhs because I am in one of these TNMM states. The threshold limit is 10 lakhs. But if in Mizoram, I am making only exempt supply, I don't have to register in Mizoram. I have to register in Mumbai. If I, Manohar, again, this question is answered. We have included in the aggregate turnover table. If I supply goods from principal place of business branch to additional place of business within one registration, right? So within one registration, if you make any supply, that is not treated as a taxable supply. If you're taking two separate registration, then that will be liable for taxable supply and you have to pay it. And then that supply between the principal place of business and the additional place of business, wherein you're having one registration, then any transaction between them is not to be included in the aggregate turnover. But if you're taking separate registration, then you will have to include it in the aggregate turnover. If a person is in Chandigarh having turnover of 40 lakhs, so he will be registered in Haryana or Punjab. I didn't understand your question. Chandigarh is a union territory. It has a separate GST registration, right? So why is the question of Haryana or Punjab coming here? Okay. So we understood from and to. This is very clear that if you are not having a fixed establishment, don't register there. Then the second aspect is further, the threshold limit of a person having places of business in more than one state gets reduced to 10 lakhs only when such person makes supplies from any of the special category states. This we have discussed. Just take this example. Uday Enterprises is engaged in supply of taxable goods in Maharashtra. Okay, it also supplies alcoholic liquor consumption from Nagaland. Now, its turnover in current financial year is 34 lakhs in Maharashtra and 11 lakhs in Nagaland. तो इसके केस में क्या करना चाहिए? Goods imported by Mr. A of Delhi, goods landed at Chennai port. Okay, then what happened? 40 lakhs is the limit here. Okay, so if 40 lakhs is the limit, then should he register in Maharashtra and Nagaland both? Come on, this is a tricky question. I need attention from everybody. We've been discussing the same concept again and again to make our concepts clear. कंजाइनर कंजाइनी के क्वेश्चन में गुंजन कुमार वो सिर्फ कंजाइनमेंट करता है तो फिर ओनली हिज कंजाइनमेंट कमीशन इज हिज टर्नओवर. यस, नॉट द गुड्स, बिकॉज गुड्स तो मेन प्रिंसिपल करेगा. अगर कंजाइनमेंट गुड्स अगर लायबिलिटी उसकी है तो देन ही विल हैव टू इंक्लूड इन हिज टर्नओवर. Mayur Gupta, you are saying registration is not required because aggregate turnover does not include non-taxable supply. Nahi, you're absolutely wrong. Non-taxable supply is included in the definition of exempt supply. Exempt supply includes supplies on which nil rated supply, zero rated supply, supplies on which GST is not payable, and non-taxable supply. So definition of exempt supply includes non-taxable supply. Okay. Take registration in Maharashtra. He will take registration in Maharashtra because liquor for human consumption exempt. No threshold rate and okay. In both registration is required. $40 lakhs limit. Okay. Varied answers. Let us get into the answer. Uday Enterprises is exclusively engaged in making taxable supply of goods from Maharashtra. So for Maharashtra, the threshold limit is 40 lakhs. However, the threshold limit will now be reduced to 10 lakhs as supply of alcoholic liquor is from Nagaland, which is one of the special category states. But they are non-taxable supply. But however, the limit will be reduced to 10 lakhs. In the given scenario, since the aggregate turnover exceeds the applicable threshold of 40 lakhs, it is liable to obtain registration. It will obtain registration in Maharashtra, but not required to obtain in Nagaland as he is not making any taxable supply from that state. Since he is not making taxable supply from TNMM state, he will not be required to register there, but in Maharashtra, he will be required to register. Since the aggregate turnover is crossing 40 lakh, he will have to take registration in Maharashtra. Yeah, you're right. So it will be 10 lakhs itself, not 40 lakhs, because there is a mistake here. However, the threshold limit will now be reduced to 10 lakhs. It is not to be reduced to 10 lakhs because he is registered in Nagaland. The limit will be 10 lakhs. So since he is in special category state, okay, 1 minute, correct this, otherwise become confusing. The applicable threshold for obtaining registration is 40 lakhs. However, the threshold limit will now be reduced. Okay, will now be reduced to 10 lakhs. In this case, as supply of alcoholic liquor for human consumption from Nagaland are non-taxable supplies. Since it is non-taxable supplies, it is part of exempt supply and it will be included in the threshold limit. And since in Nagaland, he is making exempt supply, he will not register there, but in Maharashtra, he will register. Aisha, even though alcohol is not under GST, limit will have to be reduced still because aggregate turnover includes exempt turnover and exempt turnover includes non-taxable turnover also. Diksha, thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. It is not, it is now. Yes. Ten lakhs only when there's taxable supply from special category? No, any supply, because let me go through the slide which says on the limit, which says that just says the limit of 20 lakhs for both goods and services. That doesn't say taxable supply or exempt supply. It says the threshold limit of 20 lakhs. Threshold limit of 20 lakhs means it is a aggregate turnover itself. It is a mistake in the book. Yes, in the mistake in the book as well. Okay. I will talk to the board of studies also on this and let us see if they can give some clarification. But according to me, yes, we are very clear based on the concepts what you have read that it is the limit of 10 lakhs which has to be considered. Yeah. Sri Lakshmi, the change in answer is I will just project what is given in the board of studies so that we are clear. Yeah, this is your board of studies note. It says that clearly further the threshold limit of a person having places of business in more than one state in India gets reduced to 10 lakhs only when such taxable person makes taxable supplies of goods or services or both from any of the special category state. So here it is saying that threshold limit gets reduced to 10 lakhs only when such person makes taxable supplies from special category states. Okay. However, in case he makes exempt or non-taxable supplies from a special category states and taxable supplies from a state other than a special category state, the threshold limit will not get so reduced. Okay. So there is a contradiction because one place it says we will have to see the aggregate turnover, and one place it says that we'll have to consider only the taxable supply. Okay. So to confirm this, the final stand we'll take is this because here it is clearly mentioned that the threshold limit of a person having place of business in more than one state gets reduced to 10 lakhs only when such person makes taxable supply of goods or services. So for TNMM state, we will see the aggregate turnover overall. But for when we are ready, we have to reduce it to 10 lakhs. We will see the taxable supplies limit. Okay. So we will see the taxable supplies limit in such state. Okay. So whatever I've said, I'll stand recorrected here because there is specific mention saying that even from Nagaland, if you are making a taxable supplies, only then your limit will get reduced to 10 lakhs. Otherwise, it will still be 40 lakhs. Okay. However, in case he makes exempt non-taxable supplies from a special category states and taxable supplies from a state other than special category state, the threshold limit will not be so reduced. Since it does not get reduced, so we will not reduce the threshold to 10 lakhs, it will be 40 lakhs. Okay, whatever I said, I stand corrected. So now let us understand this example. Now it will be clear for us. Uday Enterprise is engaged in supply of taxable supply in Maharashtra, right? The limit is 40 lakhs. Now he is engaged in alcoholic liquor from Nagaland, which is a non-taxable supply. And its turnover in the current financial year is 34 lakhs in Maharashtra, 11 lakhs in Nagaland. Since Uday Enterprises is exclusively engaged in making taxable supply of goods from Maharashtra, the applicable threshold for obtaining registration is 40 lakhs because he is making taxable supply. Now they are clarifying that the threshold limit will not be reduced to 10 lakhs in this case, as supply of alcoholic liquor for human consumption are non-taxable supplies. So since it is a non-taxable supplies, the limit does not get reduced. In the given case, since the aggregate turnover of Uday Enterprises exceeds threshold of 40 lakhs, it is liable to obtain registration. So the sentence is correct. So the threshold limit will not be reduced to 10 lakhs is correct, Diksha, because they have specifically said that you for reduction from 40 lakhs to 10 lakhs, that should be a taxable supply. Okay. So in this case, it will not be reduced to 10 lakhs. It will be holding at 40 lakhs itself. So he will register in Maharashtra and not in Nagaland. So the earlier sentence, what was there? That is correct. That it will not be reduced to 10 lakhs. This is the correct point finally. Registration is required at a place where taxable supplies is made. Yes, he is not liable to register in Nagaland, and it is a non-taxable supply. It will be included in annual aggregate turnover to decide the threshold, right? Is there any threshold limit manufacturing and trading? No, Sivanesan. Here it will not be applicable. It will be relevant for manufacturing and trading when case of a composite supply. So in composite supply, the tax what we pay, there is a difference there, but here there is no difference. Okay, thank you for bringing this. Hope it is clear now. Okay, so your material is not wrong. It is correct. It is giving you a correct explanation. Okay. Now we'll talk about registration when the registration has to get transferred. In special circumstances, registration has to get transfers. So, sir, it means that if aggregate turnover does not exceed 40 lakhs, 20 lakhs, 10 lakhs, as the case may be, in case of exempt and taxable supply person, he is not liable for registration. No, no. See, that's a different aspect. Your basic understanding that if your aggregate turnover crosses the limit, you will have to register. But this is a case of reduction in turnover for a special category state. So only for that purposes, we will see taxable supply. If it is a exempt and taxable supply and it's crossing the limit, like the hospital example when we gave, if you're there in only one state, you're making exempt supply, and if you're making even small taxable supply, you will have to register for that taxable supply. That understanding still holds good. But if it's a different state where it is completely exempt, then your threshold doesn't fall down. Okay. Now, what happens in case of transfer of business? In case of a death of a proprietor, if a proprietor dies and there is a business continuity, then your registration has to get transferred. Now, when it has to get transferred, the date of transfer is either the date of succession or the actual transfer. So if you are continuing the business, then where a business is transferred, whether on account of succession, wherein succession says that a legal heir is there and the business is continued, okay, then the other person is continuing as a going concern. So we understood that there is an exemption that if your business is getting carried as a going concern, then the tax is exempted. Then the new person, say a father has expired and the legal heir is there. His son is there who's a legal heir and he is registered. Then he gets registered from the date of such transfer or succession. Okay, so from the date of death itself, he has to give the death certificate and he will have to continue the liabilities of paying of taxes from the date of his succession. So the relevant date in case of death is the date of transfer or date of succession. So if there is some gap, then say a person has died on the 1st and the succession happened on the 16th. So up to 16th, it will be on the name of the person who was already continuing, but the liability has to be paid by the new successor itself. Okay, so that is the effective date. Now, what happens in case of amalgamation? That amalgamation processes, you have to go to a court, get permission from the court. Court says, okay, based on all the documents, they will call for meetings of the shareholders, creditors, and everybody. And then they will say that, okay, you are allowed to do amalgamation, right? So they will tell amalgamation is done. After the amalgamation, you will take all these documents and go to the registrar of companies. Registrar of companies will evaluate all the documents and they will give you a new certificate of incorporation of the amalgamated company, wherein two companies are getting amalgamated. So new certificate of incorporation comes later on, but the court order comes, say, a year back also. So there, the effective date of transfer will be the date of getting the new certificate of incorporation. Why this is there is because what happens in the interim period, not to avoid any problem of input tax credit, that's why it is saying that the date when the court gives the order, the business immediately doesn't get transferred. When it gets transferred, when a new certificate of incorporation is received. So when I get a new certificate of incorporation, that is the day when I will be called as successor and I will pay taxes from that date. Okay. See, in case of death of a person, there is a separate circular which says that any liability of the deceased person has to be paid by the legal heir itself. Can't be that he's died, so his liability is gone, because this succession is happening by the legal heir. So to the extent of the estates, what the legal heir gets from the successor, he has to pay. So liabilities of the previous person has to be paid, but the date of transfer happens from the date when he gets the succession. That is the relevant date. Okay. Mayur, your question. Okay, Mayur, I'll finish this, then I'll take your questions. How will we treat if person has two sons, continues the business? So GST is not bothered with it. GST says if the deceased person has made a will and he has given the business to two people, then you take two separate registration. If he's given all of the thing to one person, then one person take the liability of the GST. But if nothing is mentioned, then what the law says, if the law says then it has to be equally divided, then one of the person can take it, or if it is divided amongst both, then both will take separate registration and it is joint and several liability. So GST will not get into the other legal laws, right? There is succession law, there is Hindu law. So whatever that law says, then who is the legal heir? That person has to pay. GST will not say that one person only has to come, right? The person who is the legal heir, he will be the successor. Clear? Now, on the previous question, still there is confusion. Mayur, your question is if means that taxable supplies is 3 lakhs and exempt supply is 9 lakhs in Manipur. Then registration is compulsory. Yes, as its aggregate turnover is more than threshold, right? If you have in only one state, the limit is 10 lakhs, you have crossed 10 lakhs, threshold limit is crossed, you have to register. So it's compulsory to take registration in case of transfer of business. Yes. When there is a transfer of business, you have to compulsory take registration. But if you're closing down the business, the proprietor has died, nobody is there to continue his business, then you will have to close down the business. Whatever is the legal here, he will take a temporary registration and continue the business till all the assets have been sold. But if there is a continuity, then he will take a new registration and do a transfer. Will ITC also be transferred? Yes, ITC also gets transferred to the successor, saying that whatever stock is there, there's a business transfer. Whenever there's a business transfer under Section 18 of this, you would have read in Section 18 in special categories, in amalgamation, in case of transfer of business, what happens under Section 8 that becomes applicable. So in case of transfer of business, in case of death, the successor will be eligible to claim the ITC. It doesn't come under 24 as compulsory registration because it is not necessary that you have to register and get the business. If you're not interested to continue the business, then you will have to close it over there itself. Okay. The next concept is on compulsory registration. I don't want to start it in between and leave it midway. So we'll continue on compulsory registration in the next session. Till now, if there's any questions, you have certain time. So we will clear. So I stand here to be corrected for whatever wrong thing I've mentioned. So if there's anything like that, I am upfront telling you that there's a mistake, because when we see the threshold of aggregate turnover and exempt turnover, you'll have to be very careful that when you're reducing the threshold limit to a special category state, then you will have to see only the taxable turnover. Okay, I'm here to tell you the right things. If I have made any mistake, I will review it and I will tell you the correct thing, not to worry. What if the business is closing and the assets are sold to other enterprises? Will he get ITC? Yeah. So if a business is getting closed and he is selling the assets, on the sale, you have to charge GST. So when you charge GST, the other person will get the credit. So when there is any sale of assets, GST is payable and the other person will get the credit. Yes. Is there any difference between nil rate supply and zero rated supply? Yes, sir. We had discussed this. So when there is a nil rated supply, it means it's an exempt supply. Okay. And when it's a zero rated supply, on that, again, output you don't pay. Okay. Nil rated supply, exempt rated supply, output is same. But in case of a nil rated supply, you don't pay output tax, right? So you will not get the input tax also. You don't pay output tax, you will not get the input tax. But in zero rated supply, you don't pay output tax, but you can claim the input tax. Okay, what is zero rated supply? Clear with this? Zero rated supply, you don't pay output tax, but you claim input tax. In case of a nil rated supply, you don't pay output tax, and input tax also you can't claim. If zero rated supply example is all this supplies to SEZ and exports. So when you make export of goods or services, input tax you can claim it. And this input tax you can claim for making payment of any of your domestic taxable sales. Okay, so that is the difference between nil rated supply and zero rated supply. Since the ITC has been claimed by the closing enterprise, then will the new enterprise will get? If the ITC is claimed, is using that for payment of his supply of assets, then if ITC nothing is left, nothing will get transferred. Clear? Interstate supply between distinct persons means that if I am having a branch in Karnataka, another branch in another state, they are same branches, but once you are registered in, once you have a branch in another state, you are considered as distinct person. So interstate distinct persons, interstate means between one state and another state, and you are a distinct person. So any interstate supply will be included. This is an example of interstate supply. Tomorrow we'll be discussing on compulsory registration and rest of the provisions on registration. Job worker. Job worker means a person who does job work services. He gets lot of goods of high value. He does this work and gives it back, but he is not owner of those goods. So his turnover is not the value of the goods on which he does the service. My next session is tomorrow. Day after tomorrow. So day after tomorrow, we'll discuss on compulsory registration and all things. Okay. So we are discussing on job worker. So job worker charges is very minimal. That is only his turnover. For the purpose of registration, the turnover we will consider will be his job work charges and nothing else. See, at the time of buying goods, how will know? You don't need to know at the time of buying, right? If you are making any export services, nil rated services during the month, you'll get to know. So that it's not like at the time of purchase itself. So when you purchase anything, claim input tax credit fully. While filing the returns, you reverse those credit. Okay, so it's not like instant. That's why all of the supplies for the month is bundled and then you do it. Okay. If a partnership firm registered in Delhi having previous year turnover of 40 lakhs and in the mid partner died and partnership firm dissolved and successor agreed to transfer the stock to second partner, what will be the case? So it is a transfer from a partnership firm to a partner. So partnership firm is getting dissolved, then the partner, then this is a case of transfer of business. It's a closure of business. So all the liabilities of the firm will be paid by the individual partner and the new partner will be a sole proprietor. Okay. So we'll meet again on Thursday then. If a non-taxable supply is done special category state and supply not exceed 10 lakhs and the supply done in any other state, supply exceeds 35 lakhs, then it should register. Yes. If it is exceeding 40 lakhs, then he will have to register in that other state. In that special category state, if he is not doing anything taxable, then he did not register. Yeah, Gajendra, if before supplying he is not registered, then he will have to pay those GST with interest. Okay, see you on Thursday then.